Gardeners love field trips. We love to go to the neighbor's house, see what they're doing in their garden. You want to go to some of the community gardens to see what's happening there. But while you're out, also notice which animals are around. Is there a horse ranch nearby, maybe a cattle ranch, or maybe one of your neighbors has rabbits? Ask them if maybe you could have a little bit of their manure, because it makes a wonderful fertilizer. I'm going to make a manure tea. It's good for fertilizing a foliar spray, putting it on the leaves on outside, maybe a place you don't want manure around the base of a plant. Here's what you do. You get some cheesecloth first of all, place a little bit of rotted manure, that's aged manure, into the cheesecloth, and then wrap it up. Basically what you're making is a tea bag here, and then tie a string around the top of it, and plunge it into a 5-gallon bucket of water and let it sit there for about 2 or 3 days. After it's brewed for 2 or 3 days, you're going to dilute it into a weak-looking tea. You know the benefits of green tea, how good they are for you? Well, manure tea is just as good, but for your plants. Don't drink it. And then simply spray the foliage of your plants. Works perfectly. If you don't even want to buy cheesecloth, this is a bag that grapefruit came in. It's a mesh. The manure goes in. It even comes with its own drawstring. Just pull that drawstring across the top, plunge it into the water, same thing. Wait a couple of days. Now after 2 or 3 days, you go into your bucket of manure tea and draw off some water. You want to dilute it to the point where it looks like a weak iced tea, the kind you'd send back at a restaurant. And then go out and spray your plants. Now, why do you want to go to this trouble? Well, first of all, it's a very good fertilizer. It will feed your plants. The leaves draw it right in. Second of all, it's potentially free if you're able to get the manure from a local source, or if you go to the store and buy a bag of steer manure, it's still not very expensive. Now, let's make a supercharged version of the same thing, this time instead of manure, using compost. Thank you, Janet. Good rich garden compost, same thing. We're going to use the mesh bag this time. Just throw it into the mesh bag, couple of handfuls, measuring is not real important. And then, these are worm castings, composted worm casting. All that is earthworm manure, and it's a great, natural, gentle fertilizer. Throw in a few handfuls of that, and then plunge it into your bucket, 5-gallon bucket of water. To that, we're going to add one more thing, a couple of tablespoons of molasses. And the reason we're doing that is that's going to feed the beneficial soil organisms that are in there. Now, on top of this, what you want to do is go to the store, a pet store, and buy the smallest, the cheapest aquarium pump you can find and a couple of air stones. Turn on the pump, put the air stone at the bottom of the bucket, and let it sit for 3 days, no more than 3 days, with the bubbling air going through the water. You want to keep this at about 70 degrees, so put it in a nice warm part of your house. After those 3 days, you will have one of the hugest communities of microorganisms that are beneficial for your garden that you'll find. And one of the things you're going to find in there are little microscopic worms called beneficial nematodes. So not only do you have a fertilizer, you've also created a wonderful pesticide. Those beneficial nematodes, the bad kind won't survive in this, will go out in your soil on a search and destroy mission. They are listed for 200 different subterranean pests, including subterranean termites, fleas, and those big grubs you find in your garden that turn into beetles later and do so much damage. Those beneficial nematodes will go out and find all of them and eat them, and then once they've eaten them, they get into the body and they create more beneficial nematodes. This is one of the best things you can do for your garden.